Edward and the oil painting. The Fat Controller had decided to create posters to put up around the island to advertise the railway. He hired a famous artist to make a painting for these posters. The painter had agreed at once. "I'd love to paint the true spirit of the island of Sodor," he proclaimed passionately. The engines were very excited, and as usual, each one was clamoring to be the one to show the painter around the island. Gordon and James pleaded loudest, but the Fat Controller chose Edward. "He wants to paint, the spirit of Sodor," he explained to Edward. "I'm not quite sure what he means, but if any of my engines knew what Sodor's spirit is, it's you, Edward." "Thank you, sir," said Edward. He did feel proud to pull the artist's train. Edward steamed to the platform where the artist was waiting. "Ah, my vessel of artistic discovery has arrived," smiled the artist. "Climb aboard, sir," whistled Edward. Edward puffed into the countryside with the artist's coach. He clanked towards Shen Valley. The valley ran below the mountains, which the track wove through like a thread of yarn. A river shining in the morning sun ran along the bottom of the valley while rows of trees cast shade over the landscape. Edward thought it breathtaking, and so did many passengers. It was hailed as the most beautiful route on the railway. "Too green," said the artist upon stepping out of the coach. Edward stared at him. "Too green? Too green, needs a more variety, this won't do." Edward's driver, fireman, and guard looked at one another in disbelief. "I suppose I'll go speak to the signalman," said the guard, and walked quickly along the line. "Where would you like us to take you then, sir?" Edward asked. Surprise me," said the artist, and climbed back aboard. Eventually, the guard returned with permission from the signalman to carry on elsewhere. Edward set off again. As he puffed along, he passed a very cross James waiting at a signal for him to pass. "Was he painting the Mona Lisa?" grumbled James. "No," Edward groaned. "He didn't paint at all." James erupted in a cloud of steam furiously. Soon, Edward was gliding along by the coast, on his way to Tidmouth Beach. The cool sea breeze blew against his boiler, and the gulls soared along beside him. A lonely lighthouse stood tall and proud in the distance against the rocky cliffs. This is lovely, he puffed. Soon, he neared the seaside village and the quaint little station by the beach accompanying it. Holidaymakers roamed about the beach, children played in the sand, and many boats stood ashore, including a familiar bad-tempered barge. The artist stepped out and gazed around. Bulstrode noticed him and smiled. "Are you here to paint me?" The artist stared for a moment. "No, this place is too yellow." He turned to Edward. "I thought I said a more variety." "You also said to surprise you," muttered Edward. The artist stepped back in the coach. "I suppose I'll fetch the signalman," sighed the guard. "And I'll find a water column," grumbled the fireman. By the time Edward had been refilled and the line was clear, it had been nearly half an hour. He huffed out of the station. I didn't want to be painted anyway," muttered Bulstrode. As Edward puffed along, he passed Duck simmering impatiently at the next station. "What kept?" "The artist," replied Edward quickly, and puffed on without another word. Edward tried all sorts of places. Next, he tried the viaduct. "Too high," said the artist. Then he tried the windmill. "Too much movement," complained the artist. Then he tried the vicarage orchard. "Too many apples." By the time Edward returned to Knapford Station, night had fallen. Other engines were there, including James and Duck. The artist stepped out of the coach and sniffed. "Oh dear, it seems it's too late to paint now, and no artistic discovery to be found. I suppose nowhere on Sodor has spirits." The engines were about to tell the artist just what they thought about artistic discovery, when, whoosh! Edward billowed steam everywhere. "I'll have you know that there's no place in the world like Sodor. You have some nerve to order a special train, treat it as your taxi and waste our coal and water, delay other trains, and then paint nothing from our beautiful island. And I have blisters on my heels from walking on ballast all day," added the guard. "Your entitlement is quite the work of art," finished Edward. The whole station was speechless. The engines had never seen Edward so upset before, and with one last angry whoosh of steam, the artist's dark grey beret flew off his head and into the night. Before the artist could even think of anything to say, Edward huffed crossly to the shed. Some days later, the Fat Controller came to see Edward. "I'd like you to go to Knapford after your last train. The artist has finished his masterpiece." "Oh dear," Edward thought. "What will he say?" He found out later that night when he arrived at Knapford for the grand unveiling. "I am proud to present the Spirit of Sodor." The curtains were pulled back and Edward nearly dropped his fire in shock. It was a painting of him. Edward was speechless. "But why me?" he asked. "You are very passionate about your home, Edward, and that is why I decided that you are the true spirit of Sodor. I hope this makes up for my, behavior." Edward was honored. And so, posters were printed and pasted all across the island, displaying Edward, the true spirit of Sodor, and the Fat Controller's Railway.